Is OCR getting unaffordable? Is OCR getting unaffordable in this current market? Let's talk about it. Today I'll be talking about the news that actually created a big hoo-ha in the property market, which is none other than the government land sales GLS in short for the Bayshore Road at $1,388 per square foot per plot ratio, and it's in the OCR. Okay, so how will this piece of news actually set the stage for subsequent land bid prices, and actually how will this actually affect property market here in Singapore? And if you are a potential home buyer that's looking to buy a property, then I want you guys to watch to the end of this video because I want you guys to see if you can pick up any leading indicator that you can derive from this. And as the ancient Chinese philosophy goes, opportunities always often arise from crisis. 有危才有机，所以才叫危机. Before we go on, do give me a like for this video so that this content can reach out to more people. So let's start off with a little bit of context about this GLS tender. For this plot of land, right, it has actually attracted 8 bids, with Seaside being awarded the top bid at $1,388 per square feet per plot ratio. So it has been a long while since we have 8 developers coming in together to bid for a private residential land. The last one being in 2022, which is for Tembusu Grand. So what does it mean? It's actually very clear that developers are still hungry for land, and it's important for them to actually stock up and replenish their inventory and their land bank because that's how they make money. So for this plot at $1,388 per square feet per plot ratio, the estimated break-even price for Seaside, right, would roughly be about $2,343 per square feet. If we look at about a 15% profit margin by the developer, then it will actually translate to roughly about $2,694.45 per square feet for its selling price. And let's say if today the developers are going with a 20% profit margin, then we'll be looking at about $2,811.60, which means that when this project eventually launched, probably at the end of next year or start of the following year, it will probably have an average selling price of about $2,750 per square feet. So the question here is that achievable enough for the developer to sell at this price? I can tell you it's very much possible. So first of all, right, when a developer actually buy into a land, right, the first thing that we need to understand is that because developers themselves, as I mentioned in my previous video, they are also businessmen, right? They are also here to earn money. So today, if a developer is willing to actually bid at such a high price, there will definitely be fear. Whether at the end of the day, can I actually sell out this project, because developers themselves are also facing certain restrictions. For example, the ABSD deadline, if they buy a piece of land and they can't sell it in time. Definitely when developer bid this piece of land, there is actually confidence that at the end of the day, they're able to sell out the project. So secondly, of course, we look at the resale price support that we have around the Bayshore Road land plot. I would like to quote Seaside Residences, because this project, right, is actually one of the newest and actually nearest to the Bayshore Road plot. Seaside Residences, right, as of today, they have actually achieved roughly about $2,004 to $2,005 per square feet. So if you look on Property Guru, there are owners that is actually asking for about $2,007 to $2,008 per square feet already. So given the age of this property right now as a resale property, do you think that it's actually achievable to sell a brand new project next year, maybe in 2026 or even start of 2027, at $2,750 per square feet? However, we also saw the recent Lentor Gardens GLS tender, right, which is sold at $920 per square feet per plot ratio. So this means that actually when developers put in their bids to buy a new piece of land, right, they would actually factor in the resale price support around there and how much are people willing to pay for property in that area. So in the case of Bayshore, of course, because this location is definitely good and we have seen surrounding property prices and the surrounding new launches actually achieve more than $3,000 per square feet. It's a matter of fact that you know that at the end of the day, when it comes to the resale market, people will be willing to pay for the view, the location, etc. Okay, so now let's put things into perspective. Okay, so Bayshore Road, right, is actually in the OCR. Okay, so it's going to launch, like we mentioned earlier, is about $2,750 per square feet. Okay, that's an estimate in 2026 or even in 2027. One thing that I would like to highlight is that actually currently there is a few upcoming CCR land plots that were bought last year and it's actually going to launch this year. So what are some of these projects that we are looking at is firstly, the River Valley Green Parcel A. Okay, so for this land plot, it's actually bidded at $1,325 per square feet per plot ratio. Secondly, we also have another project in Holland Drive that is sold for $1,285 per square feet per plot ratio. Why am I sharing with you this? Is because you see, today the prices in CCR, right, based on whatever it has been bidded, right, will eventually be launched at a selling price of close to about $3,000 per square feet. And with the OCR prices, we are expected to sell from the Bayshore Road at $2,007 plus. Actually, do we see an opportunity right now in this current market? So before I go into the why is it so important for you guys to understand, right, do give me a like and also share with somebody who you feel that my content may actually help them. So why is it important for all of you to actually understand this is because today we are witnessing one thing, which is the narrowing price gap towards core central region properties in Singapore. Okay, so let's take a look at this core central region price gap versus the RCR and OCR. Okay, so as of Q4 2024, right, as you can see, the CCR versus OCR is at 25%. The price gap is at 25%. All right, and the RCR versus the CCR is at 11%. But back in 2019, right, the price gap is as wide as 100% and 70%. Okay, can we actually see that the price gap actually dropped by so much, and the gap is right now very close between these different regions in Singapore. Why am I sharing with you this is that today, if let's say the new launch prices for RCR project can go up about $3,000 per square feet, or even OCR touching, $2,008 to $2,009 per square feet, right? If a CCR project can launch below $3,000 per square feet, do we actually see an opportunity? So even the CCR average transacted price quantum versus the RCR as well as the OCR has actually dropped as well. So you can see, right now the blue line is actually the CCR. The orange line is actually the RCR and the grey line is the OCR. Okay, so in terms of the absolute quantum that is being transacted, you see as in Q4 2024, right, they are actually very close there. For CCR as well as RCR, it's just a mere 50,000 price gap. So what does this mean? It means that actually for people who can afford RCR properties, right, actually they can also well afford core central region properties as well. But today, why is it that the core central region property absolute quantum has also dropped? Also because depends on the new projects that is following the new GFA harmonization as well, and developers themselves, they also stop building very large floor plates unit, which makes the entire quantum very palatable for home buyers. Alright, so this is a summary of all the price gap between these three different regions over the years based on its new launch prices from year 2000 to year 2024. Of course, back in those days, right, the gap between OCR and CCR is really huge. Okay, it goes up close to about 200%, 175%, close to 200%. Okay, and for the RCR, it's about 94%. Okay, but as we can see in recent years, it actually has dropped down by quite a fair bit already. RCR as well as OCR, land bid prices, the new launch projects, they are all achieving record high. Okay, so why am I sharing with you this is because today, right, I just want to ask, for people who are watching this, is that home buyers always tend to look at properties or look at areas that we are familiar with, and not saying that that is wrong, but sometimes when we are doing that, we tend to miss out certain opportunities in the market, which as of right now may be in the core central region. Because maybe at the end of the day, right, buying a CCR property may not be so out of reach, because I believe many of you feel so. So what should we do right now? This year in 2025, there's actually quite a handful of core central region projects that is going to launch, and in the next couple of months or so, we'll start to get more information. And I feel what you should really do right now is actually to get your financials checked and to see whether is CCR something that is really out of reach for me or not. Because today we always tend to think that it's too far-fetched, to the idea of staying in the core central region, right? So get your financials checked, and also I believe there will also be concerns whether buying into CCR is actually a wise choice, because past records actually proven that buying into CCR you will tend to lose a lot of money, and I would like to debunk that myth for you, but that will be in my subsequent videos. If you want to know more about what's going to happen in the core central region, to reach out to me and I'll be happy to share with you more. So if you guys have been looking at my content and you love what I've been sharing, do give me a like as well as subscribe, or even leave a comment on what do you think about the CCR. Alright, so I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye!